Hey guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 345th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So even though it's been a little while, Ice Cube has had a fair amount of appearances on the page, because I've not only discussed Straight Outta Compton by NWA, which heavily relied on Cube's involvement, but I've also covered his first two solo LPs, both of which are absolute masterpieces that altered the course of West Coast hip-hop, those being his 1990 full-length debut, America's Most Wanted, as well as the sophomore follow-up that came the very next year, 91, Death Certificate. The thing with Ice Cube is despite not having a classic album for the last 30 years, he undeniably had one of the most impressive and consistent 4-album runs in hip-hop history, which of course was kicked off by the two masterpieces I just mentioned, but he would continue to dominate the first half of the 90s, with 1992's The Predator, which was the LP I chose to discuss today, as well as 1993's Lethal Injection, ultimately resulting in another one of those discographies where the fan base can't establish a definitive ranking for the work, since every other hip-hop head you ask will have a different order of worst to best albums. For me, when it comes to these four records in particular, I would probably have to list them as America's Most Wanted at the top, neck and neck with Death Certificate, and then in third place I'd have The Predator, leaving the fourth spot to Lethal Injection, but take that with a grain of salt, because that LP may fall relatively short in comparison to his best work, but Lethal Injection is still one of the best releases from 1993, and if you know anything about how stacked that year was, you'll know how high of an honor that is. It's actually extremely close with which album I prefer between that classic and this one here, and they could pretty easily switch off placements depending on what day you ask me, since they both excel in the same categories, and were equally impactful when it came to pushing West Coast gangster rap forward. But what gives The Predator the slight edge for me currently, as trivial and pedestrian as it may be, is the hit single It Was a Good Day, which I'm just a sucker for considering it probably has a top 10 sample flip of all time for me, using the stellar Isley Brothers cut Footsteps in the Dark, which is almost a cheat code as it's already so amazing on its own, and it very well may have been the first instrumental I remember truly falling in love with. The entire album gives off this sort of smoky aesthetic that I adore, and that mood comes through on this career-defining single, where as iconic and well-known as they may be, I still want to share at least a little chunk of Ice Cube's opening lines here, just because it's so seminal and autobiographical. Plus, it would inspire countless later artists who would take a crack at putting their own spin on this timeless story. He starts us off with the unforgettable lines, "Just waking up in the morning, gotta thank God. I don't know, but today seems kinda odd. No barking from the dog, no smog, and mama cooked the breakfast with no hog. I got my grub on, but didn't pig out. Finally got a call from a girl I wanna dig out. Hooked it up for later as I hit the door, thinking will I live another 24? I gotta go 'cause I got me a drop top. And if I hit the switch, I can make the ass drop. Had to stop at a red light, looking in my mirror, not a jacker in sight. And everything is alright. I got a beat from Kim, and she can do it all night. Calling up the homies and I'm asking y'all, which park are y'all playing basketball? Get me on the court and I'm trouble. Last week messed around and got a triple-double. Freaking brothers every way like MJ, I can't believe today was a good day." Obviously, it may not seem quite as ambitious to write a song about having a good day when you're looking at it over 30 years later, and we've had a litany of creative, inventive, and conceptual story tracks. But you have to remember the context here, because in 1992, pretty much all the hardcore gangster rap, regardless of where it came from, was avoiding positivity like the plague. Most likely because rappers didn't want to be viewed as corny or soft, so even when there was storytelling in this subgenre, you were very unlikely to hear an act like Ghetto Boys or Compton's Most Wanted going in the direction Cube did here, where he looked for all the positive aspects of his less than ideal surroundings, and in doing so, gave the outside world a look into how an average day in the hood might play out without any frills or a biased filter. However, that moment is definitely an outlier because the majority of this thing is full of racial tension and justified outrage, which of course was a core tenement of his previous work. But this time around it was a bit different because this album's creation took place within months of the 1992 Los Angeles riots. And if there's anyone who you can bet on to give their 2 cents when it comes to major cultural events of that nature, it's Ice Cube. We get a small but diverse set of featured artists who show up on The Predator, including Don Jaguar, Lil Russ, and DOS Effects, but in terms of the grimy, sinister production, that was handled by a team made up of names like DJ Pooh, Sir Jinx, Torture Chamber, DJ Muggs, and Ice Cube himself. When it comes to my honorable mentions for this one, I want to recommend some killer album cuts, including the title track, Now I Gotta Wetcha, We Had to Tear This Motherfucker Up, Gangsta Fairy Tale 2, Who Got the Camera, Say Hi to the Bad Guy, Dirty Mac, and When Will They Shoot. As for my overall top 3 favorites here, I would definitely have to go with Wicked, It Was a Good Day, and Check Yourself. Thank you for watching my 345th video. Next time we have a legendary Dep Squad member who's making their debut on the page, so look out for that one. And if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments are off this West Coast landmark. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.